Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 17.34 Gate Open, Gate Close, Part 3.
We are back.
We are so
Doesn't
back.
it feel good? Last time we were reading, Taurus Mortar, Taurus Dragon was fighting Nararion, and some other stuff was happening too. But this time, we are back. Day 3. Ruth Blaine fought, alongside Ruth Blaine, and Ruth Blaine. The sets of Ruth Blaine's armor, separated physically from their master, joined her in the brawl all the same. Skeletal dove into crowds of Seelie Rangers with its vicious claws. Noblesse sent volleys of plasma shots, and Seelie sent volleys of plasma shots what? It was just shooting a gun?
What?
Is Noblesse set just shooting a gun?
No, it reflects stuff.
Yeah, but doesn't it break when it does that?
The part of it breaks and then it comes back.
Oh. And Seelie guns screeching back through the air, and Revolutionaire provided covering fire without end, just powering up my opponents as a treat.
It can also just work as an actual gun.
Atop the grand staircase of Oberon, before its massive gates, Ruth Blaine ×4 was bringing down hell. The captain couldn't help but be impressed as he re-emerged from Gemini World on the last flight of stairs, a smirk tugging at his ravaged lips. The security forces pouring out of the fortress seemed endless, but Ruth was incapacitating them as quickly as they arrived. This was a temporary victory. Once higher-tier troops like Enhanced Automatics or the Unseelie arrived, things would become much more difficult. But for the time being, Ruth had this place locked down. All of that was a distraction, though. The true goal was to provide an opening for Dragana Hadrian to escape Oberon completely. The captain could sense her on the other side of the gates, waiting for their assistance. Beating down Seelie Rangers was all well and good, but to get through those gates, they were going to need heavier ordnance. The fight with Nararion had given the captain an idea for that, but first he needed to. The shadow at Ruth Blaine's feet rippled, and the captain's heart nearly dropped out of his chest. She and Detoy Muzazi had explained to them all the encounters they'd had in the city ring, with those 3 other variants. One of them had been a shadow user, able to manipulate and travel through them. Was it possible that, back when Ruth had encountered that variant, he'd already primed her shadow for this moment? A dormant trigger, safe and hidden, waiting to be pulled? A clear blade began to rise from the dark, pointing right at Ruth's back. It was funny. The shadow turning liquid behind Ruth Blaine was black as night, and yet when the captain looked at it, he found himself reminded of one thing. The burning husk of Elysian fields, the war that had broken him, the fire that had taken everything away. The portion of his mind permanently devoted to that moment shuddered in sympathy. Not this time. The captain rushed forward with everything he had. Tactics, strategy, even rationality itself were all forgotten. Just like back in the Heart Building on Kalis Breck, his body moved all on its own. He made no effort to dodge, and the attacks of Seelie Rangers just barely missed him. Grazing blows carved chunks from his body, but he did not acknowledge them, for he did not feel them. Every part of him was devoted to this one moment, this one effort. He wouldn't let Ruth Blaine die again. The Shadow Master lunged out of his domain. He had seen better days. One arm was missing, the other a ravaged ruin. Holding a weapon was impossible for it, so the variant had instead gripped the hilt of permutation between his teeth. He'd lost a leg, too, the stump wriggling in the air as his other leg remained submerged in the shadow up to his ankle. Among the bloody slashes coating the variant's face, the captain could only see a single red eye staring with mad hatred. With a feral growl, the variant thrust the blade at Ruth's back. Blue aether crackled, red blood sprayed, and in that moment when time seemed frozen, Ruth Blaine slowly turned her head to look. She locked eyes with the captain, who was suddenly standing behind her. For a moment her face, covered in blood not her own, was contorted in confusion. Then her gaze drifted downwards, and cold horror took hold of her features instead. Even with the blade of permutation impaling him from behind, the captain couldn't help but smile. "Thank God," he muttered. "I did it right this time." Aetheral Space 17.34. Gate open, gate closed. Part 3. The pain running through the captain's body was nothing compared to the relief of seeing Ruth Blaine unharmed. Even seeing those eyes filled with a different kind of pain, he couldn't help but feel happy. This time he'd saved her. "Dragon?" Ruth whispered. her voice halting. There was no time for a long goodbye, or even a proper reply. Only a single word. The captain parted lips that were already turning pale. Go! And then, without another word or glance, he threw himself backwards. The sudden motion broke the hilt of permutation free from the Shadow Variant's jaw, sending a few teeth flying in the process. The blade of the legendary Aether armament remained embedded in the captain's side, his body converted into a bleeding sheath. Adrenaline pushed forward a form that was rapidly collapsing in on itself, and the captain's hands seized hold of the Variant's collar before he could retreat. Below them, Ruth's shadow was still rippling, separated from her form as an independent black puddle. Hopefully that meant it would stay put even once she got away. No time to think about it. All the captain had left was faith and blood, and the ratio was far from even. He pounced on his other self, hurtling the two of them into the shadow, and disappearing from sight. Ruth Blaine stared at the thing that had been her shadow, the black puddle bubbling like tar, her mind racing through what had just happened. The captain had been stabbed by another Dragon, the one who had called himself Dragoon de Fleur. Anyone looking would have been able to see that it was a fatal wound. That massive sword had definitely been permutation, and it had gone right through him. Ruth's heart thumped in her chest as she realized what she had just witnessed. She had just seen Dragon Hadrian die. Not a fake, or a replica, or an imposter, but a person with the same soul as the friend she longed to save. She had just seen Dragon Hadrian die for her. Those eyes that had looked at her couldn't have belonged to anyone else. And the word he'd given, go. For a moment she hesitated. She couldn't just go, could she? It was still possible to save the captain, surely. They still had to help Dragana escape, and they had to retrieve permutation. That had fallen into the shadow, too. Did he really want her to abandon everything to save herself? No. He knew that could never happen. Go. If Dragon Hadrian had said that, he surely had a good reason. He knew that she was strong. Without the crutch of a sneak attack, Dragoon de Fleur would never have been able to land a lethal blow on her. So it wasn't concern for what the enemy could do that had driven him to say that. Go. It was concern for what he was about to do. Her gaze lifted to the massive gates. She had intended to bust through them with Monarch or Emperor once things had reached a critical point. But now, something told her that Dragon Hadrian was going to go beyond that. He'd told her to go because otherwise he couldn't guarantee her survival. Go! She listened. Enhanced automatics were closing in on her on all sides, but her suits of armor were faster. As one, her disembodied sets charged forth and leapt into her, their collective forms disintegrating into an aurora of red light. If she had to get away fast, Ruth didn't know a better way than this. Emperor said. The Titan took a single step across the city. Pain and darkness. These two things had been Dragoon de Fleur's companions for as long as he could remember. Today, though, one of them had been turned against him. Ordinarily, when Dragoon entered a shadow, he could move freely through the abyss beyond, and exit through any other shadow he'd infused. Anyone else who got thrown in, on the other hand, would just sink endlessly, either dying of hunger or thirst, or eventually being spat out by Dragoon. Those facts hadn't changed. By all rights, Dragoon should have been free to exit through the shining white silhouette far above, while the bandaged variant should have been falling without end. The only problem was that Dragoon's enemy was clinging on to him with everything he had. A well-trained arm was wrapped around Dragoon's throat from behind, constricting his airflow, while the enemy's legs were wrapped around his torso. No matter how hard Dragoon tried, he couldn't break free, and because the enemy was hanging on to him like this, Dragoon too was sinking into the darkness. He couldn't escape. He couldn't get away. Release your ability, the bandaged man growled into Dragoon's ear. No. There was no reason to do that. To be sure, if this strangulation continued, Dragoon would be killed, but that in itself was a victory. When they dove into the shadow, they'd brought permutation with them. The blade that had slipped out of the enemy's body, and it too was sinking not too far from them. Dragoon wasn't 100% sure what would happen to the things inside Cancer Lockbox once he died, but as far as he understood it, there was a good chance they would simply be destroyed. He could ask for nothing better. Permutation would simply cease to exist, and with it gone, all of the variants along with the original would be lost. The stain that was Dragon Hadrian would finally be wiped away for good. A sickly grin spread across Dragoon's lips, and his gurgling giggle echoed through the void. No way! He gasped. No way! The answer he received was the last thing he'd expected. It was a giggle right back. You sure? Dragon Hadrian replied smugly. Taurus mortar! Dragoon braced himself for a point-blank attack, But it never came. What actually happened, though, was far worse than some petty killing blow. As Dragoon watched, his crimson eye widened in horror. Permutation stopped falling, and started rising up. "No!" Dragoon screamed as Permutation ascended, flying up towards the exit. "No, no, no, no!" "It's not as good as the normal version," Dragon Hadrian continued, his voice right in Dragoon's good ear. "But if I use Taurus mortar like this, I can basically turn an infused object into a homing projectile. It's on its way to one of my allies. Is that really okay?" Dragoon's bloodshot eye tracked Permutation as it rose up and up, speed gradually increasing, almost out of sight. "End your ability," Dragon Hadrian demanded. "Now!" His body was turning numb, and his consciousness was slipping, but it wasn't as if Dragoon de Fleur was completely out of options. Permutation was leaving Cancer Lockbox, but it hadn't actually left yet. So long as Dragoon died before it escaped, the result would be the same. All he had to do was bring out Aberrel. With a single thought, the Cancer Archon could emerge, and it could instantly turn the shadows inside Dragoon's own body into a swarm of frenzied blades. A swift death was guaranteed. It would take only seconds. If he just brought it out. If he just summoned it. If he... Light began to shift inside Dragoon de Fleur's mind, and a horrible and vast thought slowly came into view. It was an utterly alien concept. Something Dragoon would have been unable to recognize in any circumstance other than this. A clarity offered only at the end. "I don't want to die. Cancer Lockbox. Cancel." The effect was instantaneous. 1 second, the captain was pulling Dragoon de Fleur down into the endless bog, and the next they were both outside the gates of Oberon again. The captain moved first, seizing Dragoon by the back of the head and pressing his face against the floor. With a knee pressed down on his back, along with his existing injuries, he was firmly restrained. Permutation clattered to the ground beside them. They were far from alone in the antechamber. All around them, Seelie Rangers and enhanced automatics aimed their weapons, ready to reduce both of them to slag in a matter of seconds. If not for how close Permutation was to them, they might have done so already. Blood was still oozing from the gaping wound in the captain's torso. He wouldn't last long. He knew that. It was a wonder he was even able to keep the strength to hold Dragoon down. Each breath was more ragged than the last. "Not yet," he ordered himself. "Not yet, you bastard." The crowd of rangers parted to allow their leader through. One Star smiled warmly as he advanced through the corridor of bodies, sword in one hand, shield in the other. His eyes were closed as they always were, but it still distinctly felt like they were locked on to the captain's bleeding wound. "Oh dear," One Star said, with the mildest dismay. "That's quite the grievous injury. Even though you were able to apprehend this intruder, you still took so much damage in the process. I offer you my sympathies." The captain glared. "Go fuck yourself." "There's no need to be so adversarial." One Star frowned. "That prisoner of yours is a threat to the permutation ritual, so I certainly need to execute him. But there's no reason you and I can't get along. You seem like a reasonable fellow. As far as I see things, it wouldn't be so awful for you to become the true Dragon Hadrian, if you'd like to join hands with us." "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" Before the captain could reply, with words that would have made his previous response seem demure, another voice boomed throughout the area. Well, perhaps another voice would be the wrong way to put it. After all, there were two owners of that voice already present. That was the voice of Dragon Hadrian. The speaker appeared at the top of the massive staircase, grinning easily. He'd clearly been leisurely walking up until now, only hurrying once he'd heard the ongoing conversation. His eyes were covered with a blindfold, and his silver hair was only an inch or two longer than a buzz cut. In terms of demeanor, the captain couldn't imagine anything funnier further than his idea of Dragon Hadrian. "One Star, baby, what is all this?" the newcomer variant chuckled. "You guys make me walk all the way home from that little scrap, and once I get back you're already trying to replace me? Low blow, man. I feel like I'm getting cuckolded or some shit, you know? Why is this Dragon conservative?" One Star lifted his head away from the captain, and that half-hearted offer immediately disintegrated. "Dragon," he chuckled. "Since this black-haired one arrived, I half expected you to have died out there. He was one of the ones you were fighting, was he not? You let him live." The dragon waved a dismissive hand. "Don't get it twisted. They ran away." he said, pointing down at Dragoon. "That's a bad luck, though, huh? You barely managed to escape me this morning, and we meet up again the same day by pure coincidence. Your chakras are fucked, my guy." The finger moved up to point right at the captain's face instead. "You, though? You, I don't know." The dragon grinned. "Your chakras tell me you're a boring kind of guy, but if you managed to bring old DeFleur down, I guess you must be kinda worthwhile. Hey, can we get some panacea over here? Let's patch these guys up and have me fight them, yeah?" "The battle is done," One Star cut in tersely. "All that remains is the execution." Nah, boring. Me no likey." The dragon waved his other hand. "The battle is undone. Let's start again. Replay. Encore!" As the dragon rambled on, the captain reached out with his mind. He could feel it. Nararion had continued his retreat, outside of Zepan at this point, into the open night of Nermut. It didn't matter. No matter how far he fled, Taurus Mortar would keep pace, until it was called back. Meanwhile, he could send Stragana inside Oberon, right on the other side of the gates. She'd be using that application of Pisces paint to remain hidden. If those gates could just open a crack, then she could escape into the city beyond, and this mission could become a success. Well, he was going to give her a lot more than a crack. "The only one who decides what happens to me is me. Taurus Mortar, change target!" "None of you guys," the captain whispered, his voice growing hoarse as his strength abandoned him. "Not one of you understands what the hell you're talking about." "Huh?" The dragon cocked his head. "I want to fight these guys," the captain mocked the other variant's tone. "The battle is already over. You morons don't understand a thing. I'm not like you. I don't fight, and I don't battle. I'm a soldier. I wage fucking war." "Oh, yeah," the dragon giggled, indicating the captain's injuries with a sweep of his hand. "You're doing such a great job at it, too." The captain brought a hand to his face, grasping at the bandages there. "This?" he muttered. "Huh, that's nothing. A winner's face always looks ugly. This isn't my declaration of war, asshole. It's my victory!" He pulled, and the bandages came away, revealing the burnt and bloody face beneath, kissed by the hell that was Elysian fields. Framed by stray clumps of silver hair, the captain spread his scorched lips into an agonizing grin. His eyes were wide, so wide with pain and wild ecstasy that the reflection of his enemies were visible in them. One Star twitched. Up until now there had been a distant rumbling from somewhere outside Zepan. That sound had now stopped. It had stopped because it was now a roaring noise, one that wasn't so distant at all. Something was descending upon Ward 1. Did he have like a meteor in the atmosphere this whole time?
Well, he's had it chasing Nararion all this time.
"Back!" One Star rasped at the surrounding rangers, in a voice that none would have recognized from him. Dragon Hadrian brought his finger up towards the false sky. "Get fucked, assholes!" he cackled, and the falling star shattered the firmament. Whew, popcorn.
Sure. Nararion walked through the flames and smog of Ground Zero, clutching its head as it went. Its mad laughter rang through the disaster site, slowly but surely trailing off into a series of satisfied chuckles. Right now, its mind was a battleground, but peace was quickly being negotiated. The captain's last gambit had been quite effective. The descent of his full-power Taurus mortar had torn right through the roof of Ward 1, creating a massive hole through which the true sky of Nermut could be seen for the first time in decades. The impact with its target had reduced the exterior of Oberon's gate to a blasted wasteland, the grand staircase barely even recognisable except as raining debris. Zephyr is fucking crying. My stirs. My precious stirs.
My aura monster stirs.
Finally reaching equilibrium, Nararion took its hands away from its head, floating through the fog towards its prize. There it was. Even after such a mighty explosion, permutation was barely even singed. Dragoon de Fleur had truly been a fool to think that tiny knife would do any damage to Helis Audrey's prized Aether armament. Nararion knew without a doubt that the captain and Dragoon de Fleur were dead. The ashes scattered across the ground beside permutation were long since unrecognisable, but the current state of Nararion's motions were proof enough. Finally, that idiotic arrogance of Don Hadrian's would be muted a little. As a matter of fact, this trifactor was actually fairly functional. Of course, a certain someone's battle frenzy wasn't present, which meant Hey, it's you, laughed the dragon. Man, everyone's showing up, huh? The dragon broke free of his charred absolution, like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. Unlike the others who had retreated to a safe distance, the dragon had chosen to take the blast head-on with that absolute defence of his. His smile was surely the smile of a madman. It was still plastered across his face as he brushed chips of burnt wood from his chest. First Dragoon, then you, the dragon went on, brushing some of the ashes away with his foot. Was the one with the hat? What's his name? Well, obviously his name's Dragon Hadrian, but you know what I mean. Nerorin smiled serenely, cocking its head. That guy? I got rid of him. As a battlefield asset, he'd lost his value. Of course, being one of us, he was already worthless from the... Its face twitched and it raised a hand. Sorry. That sort of self-hatred isn't very useful, but I'm still sort of settling right now. Yeah? The dragon said, putting a hand on his hip. Oh, come on, man, what's your deal? I thought you were creepy as hell this morning, and now your chakras are going crazy. When he spoke next, his voice was low and dangerous. You ain't human, are you? For a moment, Nerarion was silent, just standing there with its pale kimono billowing in the wind. Then it narrowed its sapphire eyes. A smile slowly spread across its lips. Ah, what the hell, it chuckled. Letting you on the secret might actually be advantageous for me. It might not... It's not strictly accurate to say that... Sorry, let me just... It's not strictly accurate to say that I'm Dragon Hadrian. I'm just a guardian entity created using Dragon Hadrian's corpse as a base, made to serve as the new system administrator of Hexk's guardian entity network after Akamanto was destroyed. I guess that was close enough for permutation to consider me a valid target for actualization. The dragon clicked its tongue. Wow, that's a whole lot of words I don't know. I'm a photocopy of a ghost, Nerarion simplified, putting a hand to its heart. But that isn't the important part when it comes to the permutation ritual. Basically, I'm less a person and more an Aether ability myself. Since I was already incorporated into the permutation ritual as a participant, it wasn't especially difficult for me to interfere with it and change my position in the system. Let me ask you something. What happens to the information that comprises you, as a variant of Dragon Hadrian, once you die? Oh? The dragon shrugged. Nerarion frowned. You should have been provided with this knowledge by permutation upon actualization. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. For a second, it looked like Nerarion was about to snap something back, but then just took a deep breath and allowed its soft smile to return. Well, I'll remind you then. Once you die, all of your information is transferred back into permutation and archived for record-keeping purposes. Healer's Audrey was actually really meticulous about that stuff.
Well, anyway, Hall of Fame record. Your other selves.
It's like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's what's supposed to happen. It spread its arms wide. I said I could interfere with my position in the system, right? It was easy as pie for me to usurp permutation in that regard. So long as I'm close enough to the death, that information all goes to me instead.
Hold on, are you telling me Nerarion's a system user? Status screen open.
You saw the keyword system. I was like, oh, I get it. The dragon smirked. Right, I was wondering why you weren't told Beep Boop anymore. My current personality is a gestalt of free Dragon Hadrian persona. Nerarion nodded. Back when it was just Don Hadrian, I was kind of an asshole, but these other two temper his excesses nicely. Well, who would you kill to get their personality traits?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because all the people whose personalities I like, I wouldn't want to kill because I'd want them around. But, I don't know. If it's Aether people... Do you get their powers too?
Oh, well, let's continue. Maybe this is for maybe the end of the episode.
Ooh.
Okay. The dragon nodded, slowly clapping his hands together. That's cool. That's pretty cool. That's neat. That's kind of boring, actually. Why did you think I'd want to hear about all that? Nerarion's smile faded, replaced with a dead stare of utmost seriousness. It had spoken of its true nature earlier, and indeed, looking at that face, one would be reminded of a corpse. When it spoke, it had very nearly returned to its original mechanical monotone. I wanted you to understand how unwise it would be to have me as an enemy, it stated, but I also wanted you to understand what a valuable ally I would be. The dragon raised his eyebrows. Oh! I've seen enough of you to understand that you like to fight, dragon, it continued. You live for the thrill. But how thrilling can your current position with the Zepan government be? Don't underdogs have more fun? Together, I think you and I could be a force to be reckoned with in this ritual. You tried to kill me just a few hours ago. The dragon shot back cheerfully, laughing at the audacity. Nerarion smiled thinly. Oh, I was a different person back then. I've done a lot of learning and growing. What do you say? Admit it, it'd be fun, right? The dragon did consider it. Despite his lackadaisical personality, he seemed to actually give it some serious thought. Crossing his arms, tapping his boot, biting his lip. Tapping his foot even, biting his lip. His finger drummed against his forearm intensely, faster and faster, until finally falling limp. He let out a heavy sigh as he reached his decision. Nah, he said. Nah, I don't think so. Nerarion blinked. May I ask why? The dragon waved his head around vaguely. I mean, I didn't really like Don Hadrian, and you're like a third him now, so I guess you pissed me off? I don't know, man, I don't really put much thought into these things. There's a word for guys who need reasons to do things, you know? They're called cowards. I really think you should reconsider. Can I popcorn?
Yes, but quick question. Since he probably would have been close enough, did he also absorb the useless Dragon that knew his dad? And was
He wasn't around. No, he wasn't around for that one.
Oh, heartbreaking. So he'll never have all 12 of the Zodiac.
No. I wasn't even an AP user.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be
Means
a
he's
really
worthless
good
as a
spacer.
person. He has no value. No, you're right. The dragon did not reconsider. He exchanged the negotiation for attack in an instant. Kicking off the ground, he lunged at Nerarion like an animal, lips already bared in a bestial grin. Even without his absolution, his raw infusion and his Libra imaging-based enhancement were something to be reckoned with. If the dragon's claws struck true, Nerarion had no doubt he could tear its head apart like a piece of birthday cake. Of course, the important part of that sentence was if. Nerarion could certainly avoid the incoming blow by using Libra Rain to disappear. However, after all the effort it had just taken to explain its nature, perhaps a demonstration would be more effective. The dragon thrust his fingers towards Nerarion's face, his nails inches away, and... Scorpio contract. Stopped. Everything stopped. Every chunk of falling rubble, every speck of drifting dust, even the individual ashes running down the uneven ground stopped, becoming fixed parts of the landscape. With the ability that had once belonged to Don Hadrian, Nerarion had accelerated itself to such a degree that time itself seemed frozen. It calmly stepped out of the way of the dragon's blow, strolling past him on its way towards permutation. I told you I can absorb the information of other variants, it said to the man who could no longer hear him. Did you think their abilities were an exception to that? Or were you just not thinking at all? A non-vital organ had disappeared from Nerarion's body, but that was fine. As a guardian entity, its nature meant that what it had lost would return before long. Scorpio Contract was a much more convenient ability for Nerarion than it had been for its original owner. Did he just trade a kidney?
Yeah.
But then again, that was a pretty common scenario for ability thieves. Speaking of which, Cancer Archon, Hateful of Aberrel. The phantom emerged from Nerarion's shadow as it strolled, hovering dutifully behind it to await instructions. When Dragoon de Fleur had created this ability, he had designated the pain demerit as affecting Dragoon de Fleur specifically. Even if Nerarion was wielding his information, he was not Dragoon de Fleur. It could use Aberrel all it liked without feeling even a twinge of pain. Usually, a guardian entity wouldn't itself be able to have a guardian entity, not even a fringe case like Aberrel. However, as far as the guardian entity system was concerned now, Nerarion was simultaneously 3 different people. Absorbing Don Hadrian had given Nerarion the freedom to take Ozake no Mushi as a guardian entity, and now even with Aberrel taking up one of the slots, it still had room for one more. That was something for later, though. Reaching permutation, Nerarion squatted down and plucked it off the ground. It couldn't properly interact with the armament while it was still renting out frozen time, but this would be the best starting position once time started to flow once more. Oh, actually no. There was just one more thing that would make it perfect. Nerarion snapped its fingers. Cancer Lockbox! A pulse of blue aether rang out from Nerarion's body, engulfing the plaza and infusing each and every shadow within its boundaries. Hundreds of shades rose up from the ground as an army of swaying tendrils, and with a single thought, all of those tendrils sharpened into blades. They crawled across the ground as a grand predatory mass, each and every killing point aimed directly at the dragon's frozen body, ready to lunge forward as soon as time resumed. Nerarion turned permutation in its grip, so that the jewel on the hilt was facing the scene of imminent carnage. You'll want to watch this, Dragon Hadrian, it said mildly. It should be entertaining. 2 seconds remaining. 1 second remaining. It grinned. 0. Time resumed, and without an instant of reprieve, each and every shadow rushed forth to impale the dragon from each and every angle. Only, the look on the blind man's face didn't seem nearly as surprised as it should have been. Nararion had assumed earlier that the dragon had rushed into battle thoughtlessly, and hadn't predicted its possession of the other's abilities. Perhaps Nararion hadn't overcome Don Hadrian's arrogance quite as much as it thought it had. Killing arts, Fafnir! The second he felt the world around him shift, the dragon brought his body low, pointed his head up, and allowed a fountain of flame to pour from his open mouth. No matter how fast they were, or how strong, or how sharp, shadows were shadows at the end of the day. All it took to keep them at bay was a little light, and there was no light quite as potent or primordial as fire. As the flames continued to be projected upwards from the dragon's jaws, the writhing shadows couldn't even get close. Nararion sure had yapped a lot about absorbing information or whatever, but the dragon had made good use of it. If he was getting all the information from these dead guys, he was probably getting their abilities too, right? Given the guys that had died so far, that meant that the dragon had to watch out for 3 things: time-stopping, shadow-controlling, and whatever heavy-duty attack the bandaged guy had used to attack the gates. I see, Nararion chuckled, now some ways away, holding permutation in one pale hand. That's one way to deal with my cancer lockbox, that's for sure. You can't exactly move around like that, though, right? That's fine, then. You can stay right there and watch me win. Or listen, or whatever. Could he theoretically absorb OG Dragon's information, too?
No, because it's specifically under, the system of the permutation ritual it's doing it.
How would Absolution work with it if you absorbed all the variants?
It would get a significant power boost, I would say. Even it would get a significant power boost and be fucking OP broken, or it would specifically disable the dragon's ability. So it's possible it could have it as having the absolution and everyone else's abilities at the same time, which is also broken.
That's insane.
And also, free guardian entities. I mean,
my super special feature.
Raph, do something.
Nararion.
Healer's Audrey. Raph, do something.
That's crazy. Huh? I know I was talking about maybe teaming up with you just then. Honestly, with how many things he gets to get around by just having other people's abilities, I'm surprised there aren't more, leech ability things aside from the bounty hunter. What are they called? The Hive.
Well, this is very unique cheats. Circumstances as well.
Yeah.
Because it can take the abilities of a select number of people.
Nararion smirked, cradling permutation in both hands as it inspected the weapon. But that was more like a plan B or C. To be honest, once I'm this close to permutation, I'm pretty sure I can take my interference to the next level and just force the victory condition. Huh? The dragon went to take a step, to rush forward and intervene, but even that slight break in the flames was enough for the shadows to close in. They slashed the dragon's heel, bringing him down to one knee, and leaving him no choice but to reignite Fafnir to keep them at bay. Damn it. If he hadn't taken all that damage from the bandaged guy, the dragon would have had no problem weaving through a measly 100 attacks like this. Well then, Nararion grinned in a frenzy, pulling its hand back. I hope you enjoy being me, Dragon Hadrian. With a final wild laugh, Nararion plunged his hand forward into the refracting blade of permutation. His arm vanished into aether up to the elbow as he buried it deeper and deeper into the armament, his grin growing wider with each inch. Finally reaching the terminal point, he twisted his arm as if turning a key. I win! And nothing happened. Said Nararion. The dragon gave him a quizzical look, muted by the effort of breathing fire. What? He wanted to say. What was that? I'm still here. Was something supposed to happen? Nararion slowly pulled its hand free, looking down into the open palm as if the problem could be found there. Its grin faded into a frown and deepened into a scowl. The rage of Don Hadrian, filtered through the instability of Dragoon de Fleur, expressed itself as a wild twitch across its features. He's not here, Nararion hissed. The dragon took a second's pause in the fire-breathing. What was that? He asked. He's not here! Nararion screamed, planting permutation in the ground. Its eyes full of fury, it whirled around to face the dragon. Dragon Hadrian! He's gone! What the hell did you do? I mean, he can't Gemini World and record himself as Aether. Could he not just, leave the blade?
Well, he shouldn't be able to.
But this is Dragon Hadrian we're talking about. He, like, fucking flew to another planet as Aether. Like, if anyone can do it.
This ritual spoke Wrath.
This literally feels like Fate Strange fake a little bit. There's, like, some bullshit going on here. This is every Grail War. Shadow attack.
Day 1 and day 2 with the normal.
We're like, day 4, it's gonna start spewing out mud and shit. Where was I?
The shadow attacks.
The shadow attacks increased in ferocity, but that wasn't a bad thing. Until now, the blade thrusts had been precise and careful, designed to completely restrict the dragon's movements. The dragon had been forced to continually counter them, just to stop them from being overwhelmed. Now, though, driven by anger, now they were just full of openings. Killing arts, back there! The dragon swung his head down, and the flames pouring from his mouth concentrated, becoming something more like a beam of pure light than a fire. The beam swept across the plaza, burning through every shadow in its path and forcing Nararihion to fly up to avoid being sliced in half. Permutation remained embedded in the ground where he'd left it. Killing arts, oxygen, stomp! Nararihion wasn't getting away that easily. The dragon launched himself off of the ground with oxygen stomp, repeatedly propelling himself off of thin air to avoid the shadow strikes. Within a few seconds, he was high up in the air, nearly upon Nararihion. But before the dragon could reach his adversary, the strange skeleton ghost it had summoned rushed forward to intercept him. Kill him, Aberel! Nararihion barked in command. Killing arts, fist gatling! With a deep breath, the dragon locked his body into the peak physical circuit for a specific motion. That is, punching. He unleashed a barrage of fists, and the thing called Aberel followed suit. Their punching rushes clashed in midair, the collisions creating shockwaves that kept everything else at a distance. What did you do? Nararihion screamed again from behind its guardian. Dragon Hadrian, where the hell is his consciousness? Fuck if I know, the dragon laughed, fully enjoying the rush of combat. Nararihion ground its teeth together, 3 different flavors of fury overlapping in a feedback loop of utter rage. This situation was a fucking train wreck. This situation was what it deserved. This situation was not ideal. Another wave of twitches ran across its face. It should have waited longer, waited for the persona to properly equalize before making a move like this. No, that wouldn't have been viable either. If Nararihion had waited, permutation would have slipped through its fingers. That was the last thing it could... Nararihion glanced down at permutation. Nararihion glanced. Permutation was gone. Where Nararihion had plunged the Aether armament into the ground, only the thin gash remained. Had the dragon taken it? No, he was still held back by Aberel. Who then? One of the Rangers or One Star? Had someone seriously just walked up and taken it without Nararihion noticing? Taking advantage of Nararihion's lapse in concentration, the dragon made his move. He flipped in the air, kicking off Aberel's arm and leapfrogging over its head to close the final distance to Nararihion itself. A blazing kick slammed into Nararihion's chest, far too fast for Ozake no Mushi to defend against, shattering ribs and sending it crashing back into what remained of Oberon's gates. Blood sprayed from Nararihion's mouth as the impact resounded through its body, but its thoughts couldn't have been further away from the pain. Right now, the loss of permutation consumed its mind entirely. It had to reclaim it, but how? It would require searching the area, but the dragon would interfere, and more forces from Oberon would arrive any second. Besides, what would possession of permutation profit at this point? For whatever reason, Dragon Hadrian's consciousness no longer resided in it, so it wouldn't be possible to force the victory program. No, permutation wasn't the number 1 priority any longer. First, Nararihion had to confirm the whereabouts of Dragon Hadrian. In order to do that, it first needed to escape. Everything else came after. As the dragon closed in for a follow-up, Ozake no Mushi reacted, crimson tendrils lashing through the air. But the dragon easily weaved and punched his way through the flurry of attacks. Taking advantage of the brief delay, however, Nararihion raised its finger and opened its mouth. Dealing with this would surely be less of a problem for the dragon than it had been for Nararihion, but still, it would create an opening for escape. Taurus Mortar! As Nararihion had absorbed all of the captain's information, it had the same mastery of the ability as the original owner. But unlike the captain, Nararihion also had other tricks in his repertoire. The shadows given form by Cancer Lockbox converged into the sphere together with burning rubble as Nararihion charged his shot, creating a storm of mingling darkness and light. Nararion suspected that the dragon's melee attacks would have an easier time dealing with Taurus mortar than Leo Rain had, but the superior quality payload should make up the difference. Finally breaking free of Ozake no Mushi's assault, the dragon charged forward, and Nararion let Taurus mortar fly free. For the second time that night, an explosion devoured the gates of Oberon. Deep in the alleys of Ward 1, a ghost walked. It had been quite the night. Fighting in the streets had caused a panic throughout the district, and the explosions at the Oberon gates had sent smog pouring down into the ward proper. With all those distractions, it was no surprise that nobody noticed a slight distortion in the air, or faint footprints with no source. Pisces paint. By using her ability to constantly change the colors of her body and clothes to match their surroundings, Dragana Hadrian could achieve a limited form of optical camouflage. That was how she'd escaped Oberon after the first explosion and made her way through the battlefield undetected. Even that escape alone would have been enough for her. But there had been an opportunity on that battlefield too. Her optical camouflage could be applied to objects other than her own body. Dragana looked down at the prize in her hands as its true colors slowly returned. The resplendent regalia of Helis Audrey the Harsh, the blade of possibility. Permutation. She sniffed back tears. Mission successful, Captain. Woo-wee. Thanks for the fucking long one, buddy.
No problem.
That was a really good one, though.
I'm glad you liked it.
I don't battle, I don't fight, I wage fucking war, dog.
Everyone get fucked.
The
Fuck
first
everyone,
character
not
to
me.
scream some sense in a battle in Aetheral Space.
I'm just gonna bring artillery down.
Fuck it, 100 kilogram ton nuke.
That's exactly what we fucking did.
Oh, that was good. My throaty hurt, you know. Let's get some questions and then get this shit edited and buttoned up. Oh, wait. Alright. Rock Shark asks some questions about Victory. 1. Could Victory possess someone if they touched the spear while Jamili was still alive?
If he's not like controlling it at the moment, he probably couldn't like possess them fully, but it could probably like influence them a bit.
Okay. 2. Aside from possessed and not possessed, is there any possible third state for a wielder to be in? Like being half possessed or just immediately dying?
Well, if they're not compatible with it, they'll probably like go insane and die pretty quickly.
Okay.
And
3.
like I said, there's the influence in the states. I guess that's kind of like being half possessed. Your emotions will be nastier.
I gotcha. And then 3. Does Victory have a preferred body for him to possess?
Like the same sort of type as Jamilu, basically. So, because that's pretty similar to how it was when it was a human. So basically, something similar to its original form.
Remind me what happened with Victory. Is he dead now?
He's fucking double dead. He died as a human, and then this Astral Drone broke the spear with his final attack, so he's dead, 100% gone.
Based. MT asks, does Quix's diamond skin Aether Tick give him enhanced durability, or is he just sparkly?
He's just sparkly.
That's beautiful. Room asks, who would win, Martin Draji or David Har Malcroft? Who were either of these people?
I don't remember. Should I remember?
I'm just going to checkmark that one. Capigonesis, also welcome new face, hi. Is Permutation's selection of alternate personalities entirely random, or does it tend to create more or less powerful versions of the subject? Put another way, if an average Aether user was used as the subject, would the new personalities be more or less powerful than the original on average?
It depends. It depends on the individual, because the life they lived, if they had the opportunity at any point to become more powerful. But obviously it goes back to like birth, basically. So most likely there's going to be those possibilities. So I'd say it'd be either the same or much weaker or slightly stronger.
I would have
usually
said the most like impactful or like concrete changes, but there was one that was literally just like, I work on a ship and I don't have Aether.
Yeah.
So like,
so you're going to get one or two like those usually.
Some jobber
Yeah.
gun. It's so sad. What Zodiac was he?
I'll have to look back. I can't remember off the top of my head.
This is so fucked. He didn't even get a nickname. Didn't he just like get obliterated by someone?
He debuted as a corpse.
So sad.
He debuted to establish that the dragon was strong.
This is so fucked. Lilac Knoll. Oh my god, that's another new face. What the hell? Hi, new people.
Everyone loves Aetheral Space.
Whoa.
They love me.
Lilac Knoll asks, 1. Could tomfoolery fuse with an awakening or guardian entity?
Yes, let's say yes. That's fun. Yeah, sure.
2. What would happen if the teacher used his ability on a gene tyrant?
To see the Aether Core, he'd probably get a migraine, to be honest. He'd get a great deal of information, constantly changing information, and he wouldn't like it.
3. Is there any connection between Rakebone and the Final Church?
Rakebone would originally be much close tied to the Final Church, but then it sort of branched off into its own sort of mythos, so not in the present moment. But there's probably some like old ties and like treaties and stuff in there.
Very nice.
Because the Final Church doesn't really share the we fucking hate Aether shit.
Stift has a question, but I think you kind of answered in this arc, but I'll ask it just so we don't skip it in case. Is it possible, and more importantly, a worthwhile and accepted drawback to make an Aether ability that only works on specific people? Or would that simply involve a tag/whitelist system like we saw with the communication ability in Arc 0?
It's entirely possible to make an Aether ability that only works on specific people. That'd be very simple. As long as you can sort of have something to quantify and specify those people with.
So I have a question. Aether techniques. I mean, unless you're Wuming, you can make them on the fly. Is there some sort of like, can you essentially apply restrictions on the fly as binding vows? And if not, could you like Sakuna your way and be like, okay, this application of the technique is the exact same technique before, but it only works on this guy, my opponent.
Wu Ming could probably do that. You would have a lot of trouble doing it yourself as like a normal Aether user.
So like, outside,
you could have an Aether ability that allows that specifically is built with that in mind, though.
I have a question then. And this I know probably wildly varies based on the ability in the person, but this is not counting exceptions, so no booming, and no like people who like awaken an ability at an instinctual pivotal moment. Like in the normal course of developing an Aether ability, how long does it take to make one before it's like actually usable?
Assuming that you know what you want, and it depends on what you want basically. Let's say like the average ability, I would say probably a couple of months.
Okay. So it isn't like a very easy process to just edit on the fly. It's like you got to kind
You're basically coding your program.
Yeah. Okay. Let's end it there for now. Thank you all for watching. This was a really good one.
Thank you.
And if you agree it was a good one, maybe leave a review on Royal Road or Spotify and let us know and help us boost our visibility. Tell your friends about Aetheral Space. This is good.
It's good.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.